the fantasy basketball season and drafts, here's a few forwards I have as sleepers going into the year. The first guy is Carmelo Anthony of the Los Angeles Lakers. So Carmelo Anthony, he finally signed with best friend LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers this offseason. And right now in fantasy drafts, he's going undrafted or in the last couple rounds of your drafts. And last season, Carmelo Anthony still put up pretty decent numbers for the Portland Trailblazers. 13.4 points a game, 3.1 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 1.9 threes a game, 42% from the field. So right here, Melo's trying to get that ring under his belt because he's done a lot of things in his NBA career except play with LeBron and except winning a championship. So right here, he's going to be back up to LeBron James. I still think he'll play 20, 25 minutes a game. And he's still a guy that could shoot the three ball all of a sudden later on in his career, score the basketball and rebound. And right here is a spot was second to last bench spot. I don't think Carmelo Anthony is a bad guy to have on your roster this season, and I consider him a sleeper. The next forward I have as a sleeper this season's Nickeil Alexander-Walker of the New Orleans Pelicans. So last season we saw a few games in flashes where this guy had 20 to 30-point ball games, and right here he averaged 11 points a game, 3.1 rebounds, 2.2 assists, a steal a game, 1.7 threes, and 41% from the field. So right now, after Eric Bledsoe getting traded out of there in New Orleans this offseason, I think right here Nickeil Alexander-Walker is going to play a good role with this Pelican team. And so far in the preseason, in his first game, he had 22 points with 3 assists, 2 rebounds, and 2 steals and 2 threes in 21 minutes. So he does a little bit of everything. And now, like I mentioned, with Bledsoe gone in New Orleans, he's going to have a lot of opportunities. He qualifies at forward and guard, so he could play any position pretty much as Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And right now, he's going anywhere from the 10th to the 12th round in fantasy drafts. But like I mentioned, he's a good scorer. He does a little bit of everything, and he's definitely a sleeper this season. The next sleeper I have this season is Tate of the Houston Rockets. So Tate, last season we saw flashes from him as the season went on, and as the Rockets gutted their roster and played all the young kids. So last year for Tate, 11.3 points a game, 5.3 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.2 steals a game, 1.3 a game, and a 50% from the field. So right here, as many threes as you want to see from him last season in his rookie year. But this year with more opportunity, more playing time, obviously, I think he's going to be a pretty good player to have at the end of your bench on your fantasy roster. And it won't surprise me to see him score 15 points a game, 5 or 6 rebounds, and 3 or 4 assists with a steal a game. This guy, he's a good glue guy for this Houston Rocket team. And this is what the Rockets are trying to find this season. Young guys who they can rebuild around. And they got a good nucleus so far with Porter and Christian Wood. And now if you could add Tate and a few other guys to the mix here as breakout guys and sleeper guys this season, I think the Rockets could be competing in the next few years. So Tate here, I think he's a good player to get on your roster, and he's definitely a sleeper. The next player is Jeff Green of the Denver Nuggets. So last season with the Brooklyn Nets, we saw Jeff Green be pretty decent and have a fantasy role and value last year. He averaged 11 points a game, 3.9 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 1.5 threes a game, 49% from the field. So last season, when Kevin Durant was out for a lot of ball games, Jeff Green filled in, and he filled in well with fantasy value. And a guy that qualifies as well at small forward, power forward, and last year was at center, but they took that eligibility away from him in the offseason here. So now in Denver, he's going to be a backup guy, most likely for Aaron Gordon. But also remember, Jamal Murray most likely won't be ready for the start of the season here. So they might need a scoring punch off the bench here as Denver. And Jeff Green definitely could score. He definitely could rebound. And he could hit three-pointers as well. So right here, he's a guy going undrafted in most fantasy leagues. And he's a perfect last-round pick, in my opinion, and sleeper pick at the forward position. And the fifth and final forward I have as a sleeper entering fantasy drafts this season's DeAndre Hunter of the Atlanta Hawks. So DeAndre Hunter last season, he was pretty solid until he had season-ending knee surgery. 15 points a game, 4.8 rebounds, 2 assists a game, 1.3 threes a game, and 48% from the field. So Hunter, I know he could score the basketball, and the only thing with him is his health, because everything else He was passing the eye test. He was putting up the good numbers for fantasy owners. And right now, he's going anywhere from the 10th to the 12th round in the later rounds of fantasy drafts. So if he just stays healthy here, he's a definitely sleeper candidate and a guy who can help you go deep into the playoffs or possibly help you win your championship in your fantasy league. So that's a few forwards I have as sleepers entering the NBA season and fantasy basketball season.